Okay, well, in that case, then there's plenty of guys back then that I think are just as good as Hart. I think Henning, Malenko, Benoit, Guerrero, Bockwinkel, Angle. People would probably say, Luthez was the best, but I think the British guys are the best. Out of them, I think they're just so much fun to watch, and I think the obvious answer would probably be Daniel Bryan for a lot of people. I mean, the award is actually named after him now for best technical wrestler. And as much as I love like Quackenbush, Colt, or Sabre, or Gresham, or any of these guys now, I think Johnny Saint's the best.
Go back just for a second. Talk about those British guys. You're including like Regal and Finlay. Yeah, Regal and Finlay and those guys, right? All those guys are in there.
Billy Robinson, Doug Williams, the Dynamite Kid. Like those guys were just, I think they're on a whole nother level. And the British guys now are really good too, like Sabre and a ton of them. But those guys are so smooth. And Johnny Saint, I think, was probably the smoothest. And I think Daniel Bryan said that he was his choice for the best. So that would have been my next choice would be Daniel Bryan. But I'd have to say Johnny Saint.
You mentioned you don't think Bret Hart would maybe even come in your list. Where do you see him in terms of technical ability? Do you see him like kind of average, below average, or where do you see him?
I think he's really good. I don't think of him as good as those guys. I think maybe he told everybody he was the best for so long that I think a lot of people started believing him.
So this goes back to an earlier episode where you and me said Carlito is really cool, and Jim was like, "No, he just keeps telling everybody he's cool. That's why you think he's cool, right?" Yeah, right. That's how you see Bret Hart.
With me, it's like for me, he's probably super like underrated as far as I look at him. Like I probably don't give him enough credit, but then I think like other people overrate him. I think there's plenty of guys, Steamboat, Flair, maybe he was better a little bit than them, but Bockwinkel was smooth as silk, man.
That's interesting. Jim, what about you?
My answer is not nearly as interesting. For me, it's about exposure and who I've seen the most of. And I definitely think it's Malenko, and not because he's the man of 1,000 holds or anything bullshit like that, like with the Carlito thing, but because he made people look good. Like not only was he technically sound, even if somebody was a couple levels under him, he could still make him look like $1 million just by the way he transitioned and took bumps and stuff. So he's definitely my choice.
Yeah, I agree. He's great. So to be honest with you, my guys on my list are the same guys that Mike's already mostly mentioned, right? So I agree. I think Malenko's fantastic. And there's a point that I can point to exactly where I saw Malenko do something and it made me stop and go, oh my God. And that point, you could probably guess it, is when he fought Rey Mysterio and he put Mysterio on his shoulders, jumped off the top rope with another guy on his shoulders, and did a flying gut buster in the middle of the ring. That was incredible, incredible. And you could see he took care of the guy, controlled him, and there's no damage. Like he didn't hurt anyone. Fantastic. So I agree. Malenko is way, way at the top of my list, but not to be too much of a homer on this one. I'll be honest with you. I never liked Bret Hart until he did the anti-American stuff. When he did that, when he was a part of the Hart Foundation, he was like the tag team with Neidhart, and they were the kind of like the heel team going against the Bulldogs and all that stuff. I always thought they were inferior. Neidhart pulled him down a lot. Like, Neidhart really he couldn't do much. And so I didn't like them as a team. And then when he became a babyface, they tried to make him, I don't know, like too much of a goody two-shoe, right? There was something wrong. He didn't suit that. And his name is a hitman. So why am I supposed to be in love with a hitman and think he's like a good guy? Like I never got that whole idea and the concept. So I wasn't with it. But once he started talking shit about Americans, he had me. I loved that.
That's 100%. I 100% agree. That's exactly when I came on board too. He was great. I couldn't stand him when he was putting his sunglasses on the kids' faces, getting his. I didn't like him then.